Captain Sarah Chen felt the ship shake under her feet as another blast hit the hull. Red lights flashed across the bridge while alarms screamed warnings. Her crew worked fast at their stations trying to keep the ship alive. "Shields down to 30%, shouted Lieutenant Davis from his position. Sweat ran down his face as he fought with the controls. Sarah gripped the arm of her captain's chair. Through the main screen she could see the enemy ships. They were big and dark, covered in sharp metal spikes. The Vorthak Empire had found them. "How many ships?" Sarah asked. "6 heavy cruisers, Captain. Maybe more coming," Davis replied. His voice shook a little. Sarah's ship was just one exploration vessel. They had come to the Kepler 442 system to look for new planets. They were not ready for a fight like this. The Vorthak were known across the galaxy as killers. They took over other worlds and made slaves of anyone who lived. Another blast hit them. This time Sarah felt the deck move under her feet. Sparks flew from a control panel near the back of the bridge. "Hull breach on deck 4, someone called out. Sarah made a quick choice. "All hands, abandon ship. Get to the escape pods now." Her crew moved fast. They had trained for this, but Sarah hoped they would never need to use that training. She watched her people run toward the exits. Some looked back at her with worry in their eyes. "Captain, we need to go," Davis said. He had stopped at the door, waiting for her. "I'm right behind you," Sarah said. She hit the ship's emergency signal. Maybe someone would hear it. Maybe help would come. But as she ran through the halls of her dying ship, Sarah knew help was far away. The nearest human fleet was weeks of travel from here. Her crew was on their own. The escape pod bay was full of noise and movement. People climbed into the small ships as fast as they could. Sarah helped push the last few crew members into pods before climbing into her own. "See you on the other side," she said to Davis as his pod door closed. Sarah's pod shot out from the ship just as another Vorthak blast hit where the bay used to be. Through the small window, she watched her ship break apart. Pieces of metal flew in all directions. Some hit her pod, making it spin. She looked at the controls. The pod was damaged. She could not control where it went. All around her, other escape pods flew through space. Some made it away from the battle. Others were not so lucky. Sarah watched Vorthak fighters hunt them down like animals. Her pod shook as it entered the atmosphere of a nearby moon. The surface rushed up fast, too fast. Sarah held on tight as the pod hit the ground hard. Everything went black. When Sarah woke up, her head hurt bad. Blood ran down her face from a cut above her eye. The pod was broken. Smoke came from the control panel. She could smell something burning. Sarah pushed the door open and crawled out. The air was thin, but she could breathe. Around her was nothing but rocks and dust. The moon looked dead. No plants, no water. Just gray stone under a dark sky. She checked her suit. The life support would last maybe 6 hours. After that, she would die. Sarah looked up and saw her ship burning in the sky above. The Vorthak were still up there looking for survivors. Sarah pulled her weapon from its holder. It was a small laser pistol. Not much against Vorthak soldiers, but it was all she had. She started walking away from the crashed pod. If the enemy came looking, she did not want to be there waiting for them. The ground was rough and full of holes. Sarah's leg hurt from the crash, but she kept moving. She needed to find cover. Behind her, she heard a sound that made her blood run cold. Vorthak ships were coming down to the surface. Sarah moved faster, jumping from rock to rock. The sound of the ships got louder. She could hear them landing not far from her pod. Soon they would start hunting. She found a group of tall rocks and hid behind them. Her breathing was loud in the thin air. Sarah tried to be quiet as she looked back toward her pod. 3 Vorthak soldiers walked around it. They were big, maybe 8 feet tall. Their skin was dark green and covered in thick scales. They carried weapons that looked like they could cut through steel. One of the soldiers pointed in her direction. They had found her trail. Sarah ran. She jumped over rocks and slid down small hills. Behind her, she could hear the Vorthak following. They made clicking sounds as they talked to each other. The sounds got closer. Her leg hurt more with each step. The thin air made it hard to breathe. Sarah's life support beeped a warning. 4 hours left. Even if she got away from the soldiers, she would die soon anyway. She came to a cliff. Below was a drop that would kill her. Behind her, the Vorthak were getting closer. Sarah turned to face them with her weapon ready. If she was going to die, she would fight. The first soldier came around a rock. It was huge with yellow eyes and teeth like knives. It saw her and made a sound like laughing. The soldier raised its weapon. Sarah was about to fire when something moved behind the Vorthak. A shadow jumped from the rocks above. Another alien landed on the soldier's back. This one was different. It had gray skin and was covered in scars. It moved like a fighter. The new alien and the Vorthak soldier fought. The gray alien was smaller but faster. It had a long knife that cut through the Vorthak's armor. Green blood sprayed across the rocks. 2 more Vorthak soldiers came running. The gray alien moved between them like water. Its knife flashed in the dim light. In seconds, all 3 Vorthak were dead. Sarah kept her weapon pointed at the new alien. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. Its face was sharp, with eyes like blue fire. Scars covered its arms and face. This was clearly a warrior. The alien looked at her for a long moment. Sarah's finger was on the trigger. She was ready to shoot if it moved wrong. Instead, the alien did something strange. It put its weapon down and held out one hand toward her. When it spoke, the words were in broken English. "Join me or perish," it said. Its voice was deep and rough. "Vorthak come, many come. You fight alone, you die. You fight with Karathi, you live. Maybe win." Sarah stared at the alien. Her life support beeped again. 3 hours left. Around them, she could hear more Vorthak ships landing. The alien was right. Alone, she would die for sure. The alien stepped closer, keeping its hand out. "I am Zethkar. I watch your ship fight. You are brave. Vorthak think you weak. They wrong?" Sarah looked at the dead Vorthak soldiers. This Zethkar had killed 3 of them in seconds. If he wanted her dead, she would be dead already. More clicking sounds came from the rocks. The Vorthak were getting closer. "Choose now," Zethkar said. "Live or die." Sarah looked at her weapon, then at the alien's outstretched hand. Everything in her training said not to trust it. But everything in her heart said this warrior respected her. She lowered her weapon and took Zethkar's hand. His skin was warm and rough like leather. "I'm Sarah," she said. Zethkar nodded once. "Come, we go to safe place. Then we plan how to hurt Vorthak." As they ran together across the dead moon, Sarah wondered what she had just gotten herself into. But for the first time since the battle started, she felt like she might live to see another day. Zethkar led Sarah through a maze of rocks and caves. They moved fast but quiet. Behind them, Sarah could hear the Vorthak soldiers searching. Their clicking voices echoed off the stone walls. "How far?" Sarah whispered. Her life support showed 2 hours left. The numbers on the small screen made her feel sick. "Close," Zethkar said. He moved like he knew every rock on this moon. "My people, they hide here long time." They came to what looked like a solid wall of stone. Zethkar put his hand on the rock and pushed. Part of the wall moved inward. It was a hidden door. "Inside, quick," he said. Sarah followed him into darkness. The door closed behind them with a soft sound. For a moment, everything was black. Then lights came on. They were small and blue, giving off just enough light to see. Sarah was in a tunnel. The walls were smooth, like they had been cut by tools. The air smelled different here. It was warmer and easier to breathe. "Air is good here," Zethkar said, seeing her surprise. "Old Karathi base. We make air for many people." They walked down the tunnel. Sarah heard voices ahead. As they got closer, she realized some of the voices were speaking English. Human voices. The tunnel opened into a large cave. The ceiling was high and covered with more blue lights. Around the cave, Sarah saw people working. Some were aliens like Zethkar. Others were human. "Sarah." She turned and saw Lieutenant Davis running toward her. Behind him came 3 more members of her crew. They looked tired and scared, but they were alive. "How many made it?" Sarah asked as Davis hugged her. 8 so far, he said. "Zethkar and his people saved us from Vorthak hunting parties." Sarah looked around the cave. She counted maybe 20 aliens. They all looked like warriors. Scars covered their bodies. Their weapons were old but well cared for. An older alien approached them. This one was bigger than Zethkar. Gray hair covered his head and face. His eyes were the color of old steel. "I am Vextar," the old alien said. His English was better than Zethkar's. "Elder of this group. You are the human leader." "Captain Sarah Chen," she said. "Thank you for saving my people." Vextar looked at her for a long time. His face showed no expression. "Zethkar says you fought well. That you are a warrior. I am not sure. Humans look weak." Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. Her crew had just lost their ship fighting impossible odds. But she kept her voice calm. "We're here. We're alive. We want to fight back." "Fight back?" Vextar laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "With what? You have no ship. No heavy weapons. Vorthak have army. Zethkar stepped between them. Elder, I see them fight. They think different than us. Maybe different is good. Before Vextar could answer, another Kirathi ran into the cave. He was breathing hard and looked scared. Ships, he said in the Kirathi language. Sarah did not understand the words, but she understood the fear in his voice. Zethkar translated. Vorthak coming. Big search. They know we here somewhere. Vextar's face went hard. How long? The messenger spoke again. Zethkar listened and turned to Sarah. Maybe 1 hour. They have many soldiers, flying machines to look from sky. Sarah's mind started working. This was what she was trained for. How many ways out of here? 3 tunnels, Zethkar said. But Vorthak will watch all. What about weapons? Sarah asked. Vextar pointed to a corner of the cave. Sarah saw a small pile of guns and knives. Not much for so many people. We cannot fight them, Vextar said. Too many. We must run. Run where? Sarah asked. This is your home. If you leave, where will you go? Anywhere but here, Vextar replied. Sarah shook her head. No, running won't work anymore. They know you're here now. They'll keep hunting until they find you. She walked to the center of the cave. All eyes were on her. Human and Kirathi both watched and waited. What do the Vorthak want? Sarah asked. To kill us, Vextar said. What else? No, Sarah said. I mean, why are they here? Why this moon? Zethkar understood first. They build something. Big weapon. They make my people work like slaves to build it. What kind of weapon? Starkiller, Zethkar said quietly. A weapon to destroy planets. Sarah felt cold inside. Which planet? Your homeworld, Zethkar said. Earth. The cave went silent. Sarah's crew stared at her with wide eyes. Davis grabbed her arm. Captain, we have to warn them, he said. How? Sarah asked. Our ship is gone. We have no way to send a message, the weapon, Zethkar said slowly. If we destroy it, an impossible, Vextar said. Place is too strong. Too many guards. Sarah was quiet for a moment. She thought about everything Zethkar had told her. Then she looked at the weapons in the corner. An idea started to form. You said the Vorthak make your people work as slaves, she said to Zethkar. Yes, my brother is there. Many others. So Kirathi go in and out of the weapon place every day? Yes, but guards watch them close. Sarah turned to her crew. What equipment did we save from the pods? Davis thought for a moment. Some tools, medical supplies, and the sensor pack from your pod. The sensor pack, Sarah repeated. That could work. Can it still scan for energy sources? Should be able to, Davis said. Why? Sarah turned back to Zethkar. If we could get inside that weapon facility, could you find the most important parts? Maybe, Zethkar said. But how we get inside? As slaves, Sarah said. Your people go to work. We go with them. Vextar made a sound like spitting. Humans cannot pass for Kirathi. Guards will see. Not as Kirathi, Sarah said. As new slaves. The Vorthak just captured humans. They'll want to put us to work too. The cave was quiet again. Sarah could see the Kirathi thinking about her idea. It could work, Zethkar said slowly. But if they catch us, they'll catch us anyway if we stay here, Sarah said. At least this way we're fighting back. And then what? Vextar asked. Say we get inside. Say we find the weapon's heart. How do we destroy something so big? Sarah smiled for the first time since the battle. Leave that to us. Humans are very good at breaking things we're not supposed to touch. A young Kirathi ran into the cave. He spoke fast in his own language. Zethkar's face went dark. Vorthak found one of the tunnel doors, he said. They will be here soon. Sarah looked around the cave. At her crew. At the Kirathi warriors. All of them were looking at her. So what's it going to be? She asked. Do we run and hide? Or do we make them sorry they ever came to this system? Zethkar stepped forward. I say we fight. One by one, the other Kirathi nodded. Even Vextar, after a long moment, gave his agreement. Then we better move fast, Sarah said. Davis, get that sensor pack ready. Everyone else, grab what weapons you can carry. As the cave filled with the sound of people preparing for battle, Sarah felt something she had not felt since her ship was destroyed. Hope. Maybe they could not win. Maybe they would all die trying. But at least they would die fighting back. And sometimes, Sarah thought as she picked up a Kirathi battle knife, that was enough to change everything. The Vorthak soldiers found the hidden cave 3 hours later. By then, it was empty. Sarah crouched behind a ridge of rocks, watching the enemy search the abandoned base. Beside her, Zethkar counted the soldiers. 20 warriors, he whispered. More coming. Good, Sarah said. That means fewer guards at the weapon facility. They had moved everyone to a new hiding place deeper in the moon's cave system. It was smaller and darker, but the Vorthak would not find it easily. Now Sarah and Zethkar were watching the old base to learn how the enemy searched. They are not smart, Zethkar said as they watched. They look in same places every time. They do not think like hunters. That's good for us, Sarah said. She had been learning about Karathi culture while they planned their attack. The aliens thought like warriors, but they also thought like scientists. They studied their enemies before they fought. Over the past day, Sarah had learned much about her new allies. The Karathi were an old race of fighters. Their whole culture was built around honor and skill in battle. They had been free for thousands of years before the Vorthak came. Your people fought hard when the Vorthak invaded, Sarah said. Zethkar's face went dark. We fought, we died. Not enough. How long ago? 2 years your time? They came with many ships, promised to leave us alone if we surrender. We believed them. He spit on the ground. Fools we were. Sarah understood that anger. She felt it too when she watched her ship die. But some of you kept fighting. Some, not many. Most of my people now work as slaves. They think fighting is over. What do you think? Zethkar looked at her with those burning blue eyes. I think fighting never over. Until enemy is dead or we are dead. That night, back in the new cave, Sarah worked with her crew and the Karathi to make their plan better. They had learned the work schedule at the weapon facility. Karathi slaves were taken there every morning and brought back every night. The trip took an hour each way in armored vehicles. The transport route goes through a narrow valley, Zethkar explained, drawing in the dirt with a stick. Rocks on both sides. Good place for attack. We need to be careful, Sarah said. If we kill too many guards, they'll know something is wrong. Lieutenant Davis looked up from the sensor pack he was fixing. What if we don't kill them? What if we just take their place? Everyone looked at him. Explain, Sarah said. Stun weapons, Davis said. We take out the guards but keep them alive. Strip them and take their armor. Some of us pretend to be guards bringing in new prisoners. Zethkar nodded slowly. Could work. But Vorthak guards all know each other. They will know we are not real. Not if we keep the helmets on, Sarah said. And stay quiet. How many guards usually bring the workers? 4 in each transport. 2 transports every day. 8 guards total, Sarah said. We can handle 8. Vextar, who had been listening, shook his head. Too dangerous. If plan fails, all prisoners die. My people die. If we do nothing, everyone dies anyway, Sarah said. At least this way we have a chance. She stood up and looked around the cave. I know this is crazy. I know the odds are bad. But I've seen what happens when good people do nothing. The Vorthak will keep taking worlds.
Keep making slaves.
Someone has to stop them. A young Karathi warrior raised his hand. I will fight, he said in broken English. And I, said another. One by one, the Karathi volunteers spoke up. Even some who had been quiet before stepped forward. In the end, 12 Karathi and all 8 humans agreed to the plan. Only Vextar remained silent. Elder, Zethkar said, we need your wisdom. Vextar looked at Sarah for a long time. You are very young, human captain. You do not understand what you ask. Then explain it to me, Sarah said. If we do this thing, if we attack Vorthak, there is no going back. They will hunt us to the end of the galaxy. They will kill every Karathi they find. They're already doing that, Sarah pointed out. No. Now they keep us alive to work. If we fight, they will decide we are too dangerous to live. Sarah understood what the old alien was saying. This plan would put every Karathi at risk. Not just the ones here, but all of them across the galaxy. You're right, Sarah said quietly. I can't ask you to take that risk for us. For humans, she turned to Zethkar. My crew and I will go alone. We'll find another way. No. The voice was firm and strong. Sarah looked around and saw that it was Vexitar who had spoken. No. The old Karathi said again. I have been thinking wrong. Vorthak already planned to kill us all. They just do it slow. Make us build weapons to kill others first. Better to die fighting than to die as slaves. He stood up, his old bones creaking. I'm too old to fight. But I will help plan, and when you go, you take my blessing. Zethkar bowed his head to the elder. Thank you, grandfather. The next morning, they put their plan into action. Sarah and 6 others hid in the rocks above the transport route. Zethkar and 5 Karathi warriors hid on the other side. Below them, the valley waited. Sarah checked her weapon. It was a stun gun they had built from parts of her escape pod. It would not kill, but it would drop a Vorthak soldier for several hours. Transport coming, Davis whispered from his watch position. Sarah could hear the rumble of engines. 2 large vehicles moved slowly through the valley. They were black and covered in armor. Small windows let the drivers see out. "Wait for my signal," Sarah whispered into her radio. The first transport passed below them. Sarah could see Karathi prisoners inside, their heads down, their hands chained. The sight made her angry. "Now," she said. Both groups attacked at once. Sarah and her people dropped from the rocks onto the first transport. Zethkar's group hit the second one. The stun weapons worked perfectly. In less than 2 minutes, all 8 guards were unconscious. "Get them out of sight," Sarah ordered. "Strip the armor." The Vorthak guards were bigger than humans, but smaller than Karathi. With some padding, the armor fit well enough. Sarah put on a guard helmet and looked through the eye holes. She could see fine, and the helmet's radio worked. "Can you understand their language?" she asked Zethkar. "Some words. Enough." They loaded the unconscious guards into one of the vehicles and hid it in a cave. Then they freed the Karathi prisoners and explained the plan. Most of them agreed to help. A few were too scared and stayed behind. Sarah and 3 of her crew got into guard armor. Zethkar and 3 Karathi put on prisoner chains. The rest of the group would wait outside the facility, ready to help them escape. "Remember," Sarah said as they climbed into the remaining transport. "Once we're inside, we split up. Find the weapon's power source. Plant the charges. Get out fast." "What if we cannot get out?" Zethkar asked. Sarah was quiet for a moment. "Then we make sure the weapon dies with us." As they drove toward the facility, Sarah looked out through the transport's small windows. The weapon was huge. It looked like a mountain made of metal and lights. Energy flowed through cables thick as trees. At the top was a massive dish pointed at the stars. "How long to build this?" Sarah asked. 1 year, Zethkar said. "My people work every day. Many die from tiredness." Sarah felt sick. All that work, all that suffering, just to build a weapon to kill billions of people on Earth. The transport stopped at a checkpoint. Sarah heard Vorthak voices outside. Her heart beat fast as guards looked into the vehicle. One of them said something in their clicking language. Zethkar replied, his voice steady. The guard looked at the chained Karathi, then at Sarah and her crew in their stolen armor. After a moment that felt like forever, he waved them through. "What did you tell him?" Sarah whispered. "That you are new guards. That we are prisoners for hard work inside." They drove through the facility's outer fence. All around them, Sarah saw Karathi slaves working on different parts of the weapon. Some carried heavy metal pieces. Others worked on complicated machines. All of them looked tired and beaten. "Where is the power source?" Sarah asked. Zethkar pointed to a building near the center of the facility. "There, heart of the weapon. But many guards inside. How many? Maybe 20. Maybe more." Sarah checked the charges they had made from her ship's emergency supplies. They were small but powerful. If they could place them right, the explosion would destroy the weapon's power core. "Once we're inside, we move fast," she said. "No time for stealth. We fight our way to the target and plant the charges." The transport stopped inside the facility. A Vorthak officer approached them. He was bigger than the others, with more decorations on his armor. Sarah guessed he was someone important. The officer started talking to them. His voice was loud and commanding. Sarah did not understand the words, but she could tell he was asking questions. Beside her, Zethkar went very still. "Problem," he whispered. "He wants to know why new guards come without his permission." Sarah's hand moved to her weapon. Around them, other Vorthak soldiers were starting to pay attention. "How long before he figures out we're fake?" Sarah asked. "Not long," Zethkar said. Sarah looked at the power building. It was close, maybe 50 meters away. If they ran now, they might make it. "Tell him you'll check with command," Sarah said. "Buy us a few seconds." Zethkar spoke to the officer. The Vorthak looked confused but reached for his radio. That was when Sarah made her choice. Now, she shouted, throwing off her helmet and pulling out her weapon. The battle for the weapon facility had begun. The Vorthak officer reached for his weapon, but Sarah was faster. Her stun blast hit him in the chest and dropped him to the ground. Around them, chaos erupted. "Move, move!" Sarah shouted. Zethkar broke his fake chains and pulled out a hidden knife. He threw it at a Vorthak guard and hit him in the throat. Green blood sprayed across the ground. Davis and the other humans threw off their stolen armor and grabbed their real weapons. The Kyrathi prisoners who had agreed to help also revealed hidden knives and clubs. Alarms started screaming across the facility. Red lights flashed on every building. Vorthak soldiers came running from all directions. The power building. Sarah yelled over the noise, "Go!" They ran across the open ground. Laser blasts flew past them. One hit the ground near Sarah's feet and sent up a shower of sparks and stone. A group of Vorthak soldiers tried to block their path. Zethkar hit them like a storm. His knife moved so fast Sarah could barely see it. In seconds, 3 soldiers were down and the path was clear. "You are amazing," Sarah said as they ran. "You are not bad yourself," Zethkar replied, shooting a Vorthak sniper from a guard tower. They reached the power building as more enemy soldiers arrived. The door was thick metal with electronic locks. Davis started working on the controls while the others formed a defensive circle. "How long?" Sarah asked. 2 minutes, Davis said, sweat running down his face as he worked. "We don't have 2 minutes," Sarah said. More Vorthak were coming. Maybe 50 of them. Zethkar looked at the approaching soldiers, then at the door. "Stand back," he said. "What are you doing?" Sarah asked. Instead of answering, Zethkar pulled out a device Sarah had not seen before. It was small and round with buttons and lights on it. "Kyrathi mining charge," he explained. "For breaking rocks." "That'll bring the whole building down," Davis said. "Only the door," Zethkar said. "I hope." He set the device against the lock and activated it. "Everyone down." The explosion was loud but small. When the smoke cleared, the door was gone. So was part of the wall around it. "It worked," Sarah said, surprised. "I know how to use explosives," Zethkar said with what might have been a smile. They rushed into the building. Inside, Sarah saw the heart of the weapon. Massive machines filled a room as big as a cathedral. Energy flowed through tubes and cables like glowing blood. The air hummed with power. "Where do we place the charges?" Davis asked. Zethkar studied the machines. "There," he said, pointing to a cluster of power conduits. "And there," he pointed to another spot. "And there." A third location. Sarah divided up the charges. "Davis, take the left. Johnson, take the right. I'll take the center." As they spread out, Vorthak soldiers appeared at the broken doorway. Zethkar and the other Kyrathi met them with blade and claw. The sound of fighting filled the air. Sarah reached her target and started setting the charge. The power conduit was huge and covered in warning symbols. Energy flowed through it like liquid lightning. Behind her, she heard a Kyrathi warrior cry out in pain. She turned and saw him fall with a Vorthak spear in his chest. More enemies poured through the door. "Almost done," Davis called out. A laser blast hit the wall near Sarah's head. She ducked and kept working on the charge. The timer was set for 5 minutes. That should be enough time to get out. She armed the device and ran toward the door. Davis was already there, and Johnson was coming from the other side of the room. But when Sarah looked for Zethkar, her heart went cold. He was surrounded by 6 Vorthak soldiers. His knife was broken. Blood ran down his arm. "Zethkar," Sarah shouted. She started toward him, but more Vorthak blocked her way. There were too many. They would never reach him in time. That was when Sarah heard a sound that made her smile. Explosions from outside the building. "Big ones, what is that?" Davis asked. Through the broken door, Sarah saw Kyrathi warriors attacking the facility from all sides. But these were not the prisoners or the small resistance group. These were real Kyrathi soldiers with real weapons. "Reinforcements," she said. "But how?" The answer came when she saw a familiar figure fighting through the Vorthak lines. It was Vextar, but he was not alone. Behind him came at least 100 Kyrathi warriors. The old man called for help, Sarah realized. The new Kyrathi fighters hit the Vorthak like a hammer. They moved with the skill of trained soldiers. Their weapons cut through enemy armor like paper. Inside the power building, the Vorthak soldiers around Zethkar turned to face this new threat. That gave him the chance he needed. He grabbed a fallen spear and struck down 2 of his enemies. The others ran toward the door. "Are you hurt?" Sarah asked when she reached him. "I live," Zethkar said. "The charges." Set and armed. 4 minutes. They ran for the exit together. Outside, the battle was turning in their favor. The Kyrathi reinforcements were pushing the Vorthak back across the facility. Sarah saw Vextar cutting down a Vorthak officer with a sword that gleamed like silver. The old warrior moved like someone half his age. "Grandfather!" Zethkar called out. Vextar looked up and grinned. It was the first time Sarah had seen him truly happy. "I sent word to other resistance groups. Vextar explained as they met in the center of the facility. Told them humans and Karathi fight together. Told them now is time to strike. How many came? Sarah asked. Not all, but enough. A huge explosion shook the ground. Sarah looked back and saw the power building coming apart. Flames and electricity shot into the sky. The great weapon above them flickered and went dark. It's done, Davis said. The weapon is dead, but their celebration was short. A new sound filled the air. The roar of engines. Big ones. Sarah looked up and saw Vorthak warships dropping from the sky. 3 of them, each one as big as a city block. They're going to destroy everything, she said. The lead ship opened fire. Its weapons turned rocks to vapor. Any Karathi caught in the open were killed instantly. We have to get out of here, Davis said, but Zethkar was not moving. He stood looking up at the ships with an expression Sarah had never seen before. It was not fear. It was something else. What is it? Sarah asked. Those ships, Zethkar said slowly. They are not just here to destroy us. What do you mean? Look at them. Look how they move. Sarah watched the ships. They were not spreading out to attack. They were forming a circle around the facility. They're not here to kill us, she realized. They're here to protect something. But what? The weapon is destroyed. Zethkar's eyes went wide. Not the weapon. The plans, the data, everything they learned building it. He pointed to a small building at the edge of the facility. Sarah had not noticed it before. It looked different from the others. More protected. Computer center, Zethkar said. All the information is there. If they save it, they can build another weapon. Sarah felt sick. They had destroyed the weapon, but the Vorthak could just build another one somewhere else. We have to destroy that building too, she said. Impossible, Vextar said, joining them. Too many guards. And the ships will stop us. Sarah looked at the charges they had left. Only 2 small ones. Not enough to destroy a whole building. But then she remembered something. The sensor pack Davis had saved from her escape pod. It could do more than just scan for energy. It could overload energy sources. Davis, she said. The sensor pack. Can you turn it into a weapon? What kind of weapon? Something that can overload a computer system. Fry every circuit in that building. Davis thought for a moment. Maybe if I can get close enough. But the range would be very short. Maybe 10 meters. Then we get you close, Sarah said. She looked around at the Karathi warriors. They were good fighters, but they were tired. Many were wounded, and those ships above them carried enough firepower to level the whole moon. This is crazy, Davis said.
Even if we reach the building, how do we get out?
Sarah was quiet for a moment. Then she looked at Zethkar. We don't. Sarah, no, Davis said. Someone has to make sure the job gets done, Sarah said. If we don't stop them here, they'll build that weapon again. Earth dies. Maybe a lot of other worlds too. Zethkar stepped forward. If you stay, I stay. This isn't your fight, Sarah said. It became my fight when I saw your ship in the sky, Zethkar replied. When I saw how you fought against impossible odds, you showed me that warriors can fight for more than just honor. They can fight for hope. Around them, the other Karathi nodded. One by one, they stepped forward. We go together, Vextar said, or we do not go at all. Sarah looked at these alien warriors who had become her friends. Her family. They were ready to die with her to save a world they had never seen. All right, she said. Let's go save the galaxy. The final assault began as the Vorthak ships moved in to land their troops. Sarah and her allies ran toward the computer center with death falling from the sky all around them. Behind them, the destroyed weapon burned like a funeral pyre. Ahead of them waited their greatest test. But Sarah Chen was no longer afraid. She had something the Vorthak would never understand. She had friends who would stand with her until the end. And sometimes that was all the weapon you needed. The computer center was a fortress of metal and energy shields. As Sarah and her team approached, Vorthak soldiers poured out of the landed ships. Their weapons lit up the dark moon like deadly stars. How do we get through those shields? Davis asked, clutching the modified sensor pack. Zethkar studied the building. There, he said, pointing to a service tunnel. Maintenance entrance. No shields there, but it's on the other side, Sarah said. We'll have to go through their entire army. Not through, Vextar said. Around. The old Karathi pointed to a series of trenches that ran along the facility's edge. They had been built to carry power cables, but they were deep enough to hide in. We split up, Sarah decided. Create a distraction. Draw their attention while Davis gets to that tunnel. I'll lead the main attack, Zethkar said. No, Sarah said firmly. I will. Sarah, you can't, Davis protested. You're needed to coordinate. I'm needed to make sure this works, Sarah interrupted. Davis, you're the only one who can use that device. Zethkar, you know this facility better than anyone. You have to get him inside. She looked around at the Kirathi warriors. They were wounded and tired, but their eyes still burned with fighting spirit. Give me 15 volunteers, Sarah said. We'll hit their main force head-on. Make as much noise as possible. That's suicide, Davis said. Sarah smiled sadly. Maybe, but it's the only way to give you a chance. Zethkar grabbed her arm. There must be another way. There isn't, Sarah said. And you know it. For a moment, Zethkar's fierce mask slipped. Sarah saw something in his eyes she had not seen before. Pain. Not from his wounds, but from something deeper. In my culture, he said quietly, warriors who fight together become family. You are my sister now. I cannot lose you. Sarah put her hand over his. Then don't lose me. Make sure what I'm about to do matters. Get to that computer center. Destroy it. Make the Vorthak pay for every world they've taken. Around them, explosions lit up the night as the enemy ships continued landing troops. Time was running out, Sarah, Vexitar said. He approached carrying an ancient Kirathi battle blade. The metal gleamed like silver fire. This belonged to my grandfather, and his grandfather before him. It has tasted the blood of 100 enemies. He held out the weapon. It would be honored to fight beside a warrior such as you. Sarah took the blade. It was heavier than she expected, but it felt perfect in her hands, like it belonged there. Thank you, she said. Thank you, Vextar replied, for showing an old warrior that courage has no species. Sarah divided her people into 2 groups. 15 Kirathi warriors would come with her in the frontal assault. The rest would follow Zethkar and Davis through the trenches to the maintenance tunnel. Wait for my signal, Sarah said. When you see us attack, you run. Don't stop. Don't look back, Zethkar nodded. What signal? Sarah grinned. It was not a happy expression. You'll know it when you see it. As the 2 groups separated, Davis grabbed Sarah's hand. Captain, it's been an honor serving with you. The honor was mine, Sarah said. Now go save the galaxy. Sarah led her 15 warriors through the ruins of the facility toward the main Vorthak force. They moved quietly, using the burning wreckage as cover. Around them, the enemy was organizing into attack formations. Sarah counted at least 200 Vorthak soldiers, plus the crews from the 3 ships. Her small group was outnumbered more than 10 to 1. Good odds, whispered one of the Kirathi beside her. Sarah looked at him in surprise. For the Vorthak, he explained with a fierce grin. As they got closer, Sarah could see the enemy commander. He was huge, even for a Vorthak. His armor was covered in symbols that probably meant he had won many battles. He stood in the center of his forces, giving orders through a radio. That one, Sarah said. He's our target. If we kill their leader, the others might panic, agreed the Kirathi warrior. That's the idea. Sarah raised Vextar's blade. In the distance, she could see Zethkar's group moving through the trenches. They were halfway to the computer center. For Earth, Sarah whispered. For Kirathi. For everyone who refuses to bow down. She stood up and let out a battle cry that echoed across the facility. Then she charged. Her 15 warriors followed. They hit the Vorthak line like a meteor strike. The ancient blade in Sarah's hands cut through enemy armor like it was paper. Green blood sprayed across the ground. The Vorthak had not expected such a small force to attack so boldly. For a moment, they fell back in confusion. Sarah pressed her advantage, fighting her way toward the commander. Behind her, the Kirathi warriors fought like legends come to life. They moved with grace and deadly skill. Each one took down multiple enemies before falling. But there were so many Vorthak. For every one they killed, 2 more took his place. A spear thrust caught Sarah in the shoulder. She spun away, but the wound slowed her down. Blood ran down her arm as she parried another attack. Commander, one of her warriors called out. The signal now. Sarah looked toward the computer center. Zethkar's group was almost there. But more Vorthak soldiers were moving to intercept them. Sarah made her choice. She pulled out her last explosive charge and activated it. Everyone down, she shouted. The explosion tore through the center of the Vorthak formation. Soldiers flew through the air like toys. The enemy commander disappeared in the blast. In the chaos that followed, Sarah saw Zethkar and Davis reach the maintenance tunnel. They disappeared inside just as Vorthak reinforcements arrived. It worked, Sarah said. She was bleeding from several wounds now. Around her, only 5 of her warriors were still standing. But their sacrifice had meaning. The computer center was within reach. Inside the building, Zethkar led Davis through a maze of corridors. Emergency lights flashed red and alarms screamed warnings. They could hear Vorthak soldiers searching for them. "This way," Zethkar whispered. "Main computer is at the center." They crept through the building, avoiding guard patrols. Davis carried the modified sensor pack carefully. If it was damaged now, everything would be lost. They reached a heavy door marked with warning symbols. Beyond it was the heart of the facility's computer system. "Locked," Davis said. Zethkar pulled out his last mining charge. "Stand back." The explosion opened the door and triggered every alarm in the building. Vorthak soldiers would be here in minutes. Inside the computer room, Davis saw banks of alien machines processing data. Screens showed technical drawings and energy calculations, all the information needed to build another planet-killer weapon. "How long?" Zethkar asked. 30 seconds to overload their systems, Davis said, connecting his device to the main computer. "But I have to stay connected the whole time." "Do it," Zethkar said. He stood guard at the door with his knife ready. Davis activated the sensor pack. Immediately, the alien computers began sparking and smoking. Warning lights flashed as data banks overloaded. 20 seconds, Davis said. Vorthak soldiers appeared at the door. Zethkar met them with blade and fury. He fought like his ancestors had fought, with honor and skill that no enemy could match. 10 seconds, Davis called out. More soldiers came, too many. Zethkar was wounded and bleeding, but he did not give ground. 5 seconds. A Vorthak spear found its mark. Zethkar fell to one knee, but still he fought. "Done," Davis shouted. The computer systems exploded in showers of sparks. Every screen went dark. Every databank died. Decades of research and planning turned to electronic ash, but the victory came with a price. Zethkar lay still on the floor. Green and red blood mixed around him. "Zethkar," Davis said, kneeling beside the fallen warrior. The Kirathi's eyes opened. Did we destroy it?" "Yes," Davis said. "It's over. The data is gone," Zethkar smiled. "Good, Sarah. Tell Sarah we won." "Tell her yourself," Davis said. "We're getting out of here." But Zethkar shook his head. "My fight is done. Yours continues." Outside, the Vorthak ships were lifting off. With their weapon destroyed and their data erased, they had no reason to stay. They retreated to find another target, another plan. Davis helped Zethkar to his feet. Together, they made their way out of the dying building. Outside, they found Vextar and the surviving Kirathi warriors. "Where is Sarah?" Zethkar asked. Vextar's face was grim. He pointed to a crater where the main battle had taken place. Nothing moved there. Zethkar closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they burned with new purpose. "She said to make it matter," he said quietly. "To make them pay." "What do you mean?" Davis asked. Zethkar looked up at the retreating Vorthak ships. This was just one weapon, one facility, but now we know they can be beaten. Now we have hope. In the months that followed, word of the battle spread across the galaxy. The story of the human captain and the Kirathi warrior who fought side by side, of the small force that destroyed an impossible weapon. Other races began to resist. Other worlds refused to surrender. The Vorthak Empire, built on fear and the belief that might made right, began to crack. Zethkar became a symbol of the resistance. He carried Sarah's memory and her tactical knowledge to a dozen worlds. Everywhere he went, he told the story of the warrior who chose to fight rather than surrender. "Join me or perish," he would say to new allies. The words that had once been an offer of alliance became a promise of victory. The Vorthak Empire fell not to a great fleet or a secret weapon, but to an idea. The idea that different species could fight together. That honor and courage existed in many forms.